Hey everyone, Mike DeBliss here. Welcome back to Demystifying the FBAR. It's sad, but we have arrived at the end of our journey. We're now in our final module, Module 7. This is where I give you practical and sound advice for deciding which program is best for you. Again, as I've mentioned time and time again throughout this webinar series, the information that I'm providing is general and it's not custom tailored to your individual circumstances. So it can't be relied upon because everybody's case is different. Every case is unique. That's why I encourage you to consult with a tax professional who will give you advice that is custom tailored to the facts of your case. First and foremost, don't overlook the environment that we now live in. And that's the U.S. government's aggressive pursuit of taxpayers with unreported foreign accounts. Second, be honest with yourself. To the extent that your conduct might be deemed, let us say, less than non-willful, you should swallow your pride and make the obvious choice. Apply to the offshore voluntary disclosure program. To quote a cliche, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Thinking that you can somehow sneak into the streamlined program without being detected is foolish. It's just plain foolish. And to drive home this point, I can't think of a better example than a person who decides to rob a convenience store and goes through the trouble of putting on a ski mask and waiting until the wee hours of the morning to do it when there's few, if anybody, in the convenience store, but who forgets to remove his work uniform that just so happens to have his name stitched across the front. Regardless of which program you choose, whether it be Streamline or OVDP, keep in mind that your disclosure must be made before the IRS or the Department of Justice is in hot pursuit. This is the very essence of voluntary disclosure. The metaphor that I like to use here is the hunting of a fox by a thirsty bloodhound. Now, I will admit that it's quite graphic, and I don't mean to insult anyone with a metaphor that is this graphic, but it certainly it certainly drives the concept home. And by concept, I'm referring to the idea of the taxpayer having to come forward first before the IRS or the Department of Justice has identified the taxpayer as the owner of unreported foreign bank accounts. So here goes. If the bloodhound has already detected the scent of the fox and is hot on his trail, then the fox is squat. No amount of pleading with a bloodhound is going to save the fox from the sharp and carnivorous teeth of the salivating bloodhound. So don't go it alone. Talk to a tax attorney. A tax attorney will be able to provide practical and sound advice on what may be the most important decision that you ever make. And I phrase that decision in terms of whether your certification can hold up. And by certification, I'm specifically referring to the certification for non-willfulness. That's because that has turned into the holy grail, so to speak, that every taxpayer wants to pursue. Everybody is anxious to make a streamlined submission. However, In some cases, that's the equivalent of putting or trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It just isn't meant to be. And so here I say that the decision that the tax attorney will help you with is whether your certification can fully substantiate your claim of non-willfulness and whether it can be submitted in good faith. In other words, can it hold up? Can it withstand the scrutiny of the IRS? A tax attorney can check the consistency of your explanation and ensure that it is supported by ironclad evidence such as tax and information returns. Having the right documents to prove your story and assuage the IRS agent is priceless. As always, my door is always open, metaphorically speaking. Feel free to call me at the number you see on the screen or to email me if you would prefer. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Keep in mind again that this information is all very general. I cannot stress enough the importance of consulting with a tax professional who will evaluate your individual facts and circumstances and give you a recommendation that you can rely upon. Now, it was my pleasure to provide you with this series, and I hope that you got a lot out of it. And I look forward to seeing you in a future webinar.